Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sheryl Iott. I'm the author of Thinking and Playing Music, Intentional Strategies for Optimal Practice and Performance. And today I want to talk a little bit more about some chunking strategies. You may remember, if you've read the book or seen some of my other videos, that chunking and learning how to deliberately put things into patterns is one of the most important tools we have for our effective practicing. And this is because the brain is always seeking for patterns, and we can only hold so many things in working memory at a time. But if we can chunk in an informed and efficient manner, one thing contains that much more information. So if we can read a whole measure in terms of this harmony or this scale or this chord progression pattern or something, we could actually process a lot more information a lot more quickly. And if we do that deliberately, we actually move that process along even more quickly. So again, this is our constant striving for efficiency and effectiveness in our practice. So the two examples I'm going to use today are the Prelude from the first Prelude and Fugue in Well-Tempered Clavier Book 1 by Bach, and a section from the development of Mozart's Sonata Kochel 333. And we're going to talk about a few different stages, and I don't have my keyboard camera on today because I don't think we really need it. A lot of these practice strategies are really more about what we're doing mentally. You don't necessarily need to see all the specifics of my hands at the piano. So the first thing that we do, you all recognize this prelude. You're used to hearing it like this. And if you do any teaching or judging, you also have a fair bit of experience of students getting about 2/3 of the way through the piece and getting horribly lost. So it happens in here around the third line of that example, where they don't understand their chord progressions. They've built every part of the piece like a Jenga tower, and they get quite lost and often can't find their way back. And I'm actually going to do a completely separate video just on how to use a piece like this as a way into some harmonic analysis and to help the student develop that theory foundation so that they really understand what they're playing and how the chords work and how each chord leads to the next one. But that's quite involved, so I'm going to do that as a separate video that will come out soon. So the first thing that I do when I'm teaching this piece is I have students rewrite the whole prelude in stacked whole note chords, and hopefully what they get is that which you can see there on the left of your screen. And I don't even have them practice it yet. They bring that to their first lesson, and I double check and make sure that their reduction is correct. And then we can practice this in the blocked chords. So we practice this. And one of the things I actually like to do is have them, instead of holding it for the whole note, so we recognize it's the same chord for the whole measure. Instead of holding it for the whole measure, we can actually do it as a half note, and this helps the student learn to kind of be thinking further ahead, because obviously if it's the same chord on beats 3 and 4, we can be thinking about the next measure while we're playing beats 3 and 4. So if we just eliminate beats 3 and 4 for now, it helps encourage that looking ahead, kind of in this like grabbing ahead of time loop. And it also helps the student hear the line that's formed by that top voice. So we can play it at this tempo. 2, 1, 2. So I get just one of each chord. Hear the crunches. This kind of practice really helps the student find the phrasing. We can also add another element, which is if the note in that voice is also the same note in the next chord, instead of replaying that pitch, we tie it. So we play this. Now I'm going to tie that lower C. Now the D and the F and the D in the left hand stay the same, so I just play this. Now this takes a little bit more thought, because I have to do more comparing of where I was to where I'm going. Makes for a very sticky horizontal interpretation, but it also helps encourage that we want those students or the musician to be reading horizontally across those voicings. We can also take that chord reduction and we can, while we're looking at what you're looking at there on your screen, we can be playing. So we learn the patterning while we're reading the chords. And I do this with students when they're learning the piece. And then after a couple weeks, we tuck the reduction into the back of their book and they return to playing it out of the book as written. But those habits of reading in chunks and reading ahead and having that horizontal phraseology revealed to them sticks through that process. So my next example, and I'm sorry this is a little cumbersome today because for some reason OBS wasn't letting me have this in a slideshow. So this is from Mozart Commercial K333. You recognize the opening is so that's that lovely sonata, and this is starting in measure 71, which is just a phrase into the development. And some of you might have a different edition that has a chord change. So this, measure 72, becomes that chord. That's not the case in my Theodore Presser edition, so that's the example that I'm using here. So before we start practicing this, you've surely experienced difficulty with getting those Alberti basses light and fleet and all of that for optimal balance, but sometimes they're just hard to read. So we can actually, again, encourage chunking practice by practicing that pattern. I wonder if I could have, let me see if I could have both of those open at the same time. Excuse me. So, and we'll get the top of that. So this is kind of a rendition of what we get if we're reading this passage, but we just play the chords. And I'm actually going to play it the first time without tying those things that you see in tides. So I have measure 71, measure 72, measure 73, measure 74, 5, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. So I'm only playing a harmony if the harmony changes. Now I can do it again, and I only play the harmony. Yeah, I already did. So I'm going to play it again. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for just a second. And this time I'm going to tie the common tones between the chords. So we have, I'm not going to replay it because it's the same chord. Made one little voicing mistake, so I'm going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now I did it again. Okay, so 75, 76, 77. That again is just like in that Bach example, is really encouraging me to be comparing the chords I'm going to with the chords that I came from. And then I can put that hands together. Sorry, turned off the wrong one. I'm going to turn off this one because that's interfering. So now I'm playing the chords with the chunks and the ties. And I am also going to play the right hand. I am having difficulty with OBS today. There we go. Okay, so now it's hands together, but my left hand is still playing the harmonies. And I had one little thing I wasn't happy with in the right hand, so if I were practicing actually, I would do that a couple more times. But you can see, so I'm still having to read the whole chords. I'm having to read the right hand. I'm having to think about how those chords connect, so that then when I do this, do it again. So you'll find it really helps for things like when the harmonic rhythm changes. So we have this for 2 measures, this for a measure and a half a measure, a beat and 3/4 of a measure, a whole measure, a measure and a half a measure, 3/4 of a measure, a quarter of a measure, then each beat is different. So this really helps reinforce the pacing of that harmonic rhythm. So this is a really great approach. And as you'll find, if you keep coming back to this channel, there are a lot of passages that benefit from chunking strategies. I think I've made this joke already. I was writing the book and I thought maybe for the second half of my book I could just chunk it. But the actual specifics of how we might go about that vary a little bit depending on context. So as usual, please post any questions that you might have in the comments, or if you want to ask for a particular demonstration, I would be more than happy to make a video based on something that you request. And I'm also happy to do some practice coaching. If you would like to do that, you can send me an email. I will make sure to have my email address in today's summary so that we can set up a practice session if you want some help with a specific piece that's a little bit more involved than one particular passage. So thanks again for watching, and hope you all have a happy new year, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.